Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond the Veil. Today we hear from Vinney Tolman, who in 2003 experienced a breathtaking near-death experience after he and a friend decided to experiment with a new supplement while bodybuilding. During his NDE, Vinney doesn't meet God or Jesus or a family member like most people. Instead, he is met with a man he's never met before, but will be introduced to in the upcoming months following his NDE.
My name is Vinney Tolman, and this is my experience of when I died. Back in 2003, I was an amateur bodybuilder and a home builder. I also did some moonlighting and working in TV and film. And in that process, I was very much about my health and taking care of my health. I started a new supplement with my best friend. And when we got this supplement, we noticed right away that we didn't feel right. We didn't feel good. We went directly down to a fast food restaurant down the street, and I proceeded to go in and go to the restroom, go to the bathroom. There, I locked the door. I passed out, and I started to vomit while I was laying on my back. It was there that I died. Meanwhile, my friend, he went in the same restaurant. He collapsed on the first dining booth. And when he made it to that dining booth, he also collapsed and started to vomit all over the booth. The manager of the restaurant called emergency services, and they were able to haul him away and take him away in an ambulance so that he could get treated for poison. And he ended up being fine. He was able to be released from the hospital the next day. For me, as soon as I had my experience of falling onto the floor, that was the last memory I had. The very next thing I noticed, I was sitting in a very comfortable position. I was very, very much floating or almost in a weightless type environment, but I felt very comfortable. And I could see this scene unfolding in front of me. It looked like a movie. And I was watching this scene of this restaurant where I could see this dead body on the floor. And I could actually see my friend. I saw him collapsed already on the booth, and I saw them find him. I saw the ambulance come and pick him up and take him away. I could also see that no one knew there was a dead body in the bathroom. And the weirdest thing is I didn't know that that dead body was me, because even though the body itself was wearing clothes like me, it didn't look like me. It looked very different from me. And also, me was up here watching things in this space. It felt like somewhat like a movie theater. And as I watched them, this restaurant go ahead and do business as usual, and more customers coming in and getting food, I could see this one patron, this one customer, that he wanted to go use the restroom. He couldn't get in. So he got the manager to open that door, and when he did, they found that body. They called emergency services. Emergency services coached them on what to do and where to check. And as soon as they found that the body was cold to the touch, the emergency services told them to leave it alone. And so they did leave it alone. They left it alone. They locked the door until an ambulance could arrive. When the ambulance came, they started working, or preliminarily working on the body. They tried to do a resuscitation, and they weren't able to do it. They did pronounce a DOA, or a dead on arrival. As they did that, the rookie was instructed to go get a body bag out of the truck. They proceeded to bag this body. And the whole time, the rookie, I could hear his thoughts. I could hear everything that he was thinking. And he started to berate himself. He felt like there should be more that they could do to help this body. And as they were bagging up this body, they put it in the back of the ambulance, and they set the rookie to sit in the ambulance with this body. While the other two medics, they went and got some paperwork filled out with a few witnesses. He was sitting there watching this body, and he could just feel this tremendous sense that he wished he could do more. He even felt this feeling that he wanted to do more, but he also knew that if he did anything else, he could actually get fired. Well, they pulled away. They finally finished the paperwork. They pulled away from the scene. And as they pulled away from the scene, where this rookie was sitting, he was sitting in the back of the ambulance with the body. I saw this light start to form around his chest. And the light literally started to glow from outside of him, like around the heart area. And I heard the loudest voice say, "This one's not dead." And I even remember feeling the energy of whatever that voice was. I felt it go over me, wherever I was. I felt the movement of that voice go past me and go to this rookie medic. I could tell he heard it or he felt it somehow, because he kind of froze when that voice came. And then I heard his mind say, "That's just your imagination." And so he brushed it off and he went back about just thinking about the fact that he wasn't able to save this guy. And then that light that was shining around the heart space, it grew, and it grew bigger and brighter, and actually glowed from his waist to above his head. As that light extended past his head, a second time I heard a loud voice, and the second time it was even louder. And it said the same thing. It said, "This one's not dead." And with that second time, the rookie heard it. He felt it. He knew it. Somehow he knew it. And he unzipped that body bag. He had to undo some straps, but he unzipped the body bag and he started feeling around for a pulse. He wanted to feel for a heartbeat. He didn't feel one. So he decided to go even further, unzipping the bag and feeling for a pulse on the leg, on the inside thigh. And there, when he made contact with the femur bone or the bone in the thigh, there was a spark or an ignition of something. And I felt it where I was sitting there. I could feel something ignite. And with that, the rookie jumped into action. He began getting oxygen into the lungs. He began hooking up a defib machine. And the defib machine, it shocks the heart to bring it back to life or to reanimate the heart. And as he hooks up this defib machine, the other medics start berating him, start chastising him, telling him he's going to get fired. And he ignored them. He went ahead and hooked up that machine and let it go to the first charge. After the first charge, there was no response other than just a movement. And with the second charge, he did get one heartbeat. Then on the third charge, he got a steady heartbeat. The other two medics, they completely stopped berating him, and they went into action. One started driving directly towards the hospital, which was less than a block away. The other radioed ahead to that hospital so that there could be a team there ready to meet the body. And still, all this way, I had no idea that what I was watching was my own body. Not until they went to transfer the body into the hospital. As they transferred the body, they took all the straps off. The body, as it was being transferred over to the hospital gurney, it started to go into seizures. And when it went into seizures, the medical staff, they were not able to work on the body, so they had to strap it down. And until they got those straps on, I didn't know it was me. As they got the last strap on, I felt my own arm where I was sitting watching everything. I felt my own arm being strapped down. And I looked down to see what was going on my arm. And I was looking at the straps on that body. And that was the first moment I knew that anything was going on between me and this scene. That was the first moment I knew that I'd been watching my own death this whole time. And I felt just absolutely ignorant. I felt so dumb. As I went ahead and processed this, I started to have this fear energy come around me so strong. And then as the fear came in and settled in on me, I started to see anything negative that I ever did in my life. Anything, even from the youngest age. And I saw it from the eyes of my own, but I also saw it from the eyes of someone that I did it to. And as I saw all these bad things I ever did, and I mean everything, I started to feel this question coming up in me. Why do I even exist if this is all I am? And that's when I began to feel warmth, this loving warmth come over my back. And this warmth started from behind me and started to just warm over my whole being. And out of nowhere, I started to see all the good I ever did from the youngest age. And same as before, I started seeing it from the eyes of those who received my good, as well as from inside me. I got to completely see that I did so much more good than what I had done bad. And I felt a tremendous sense of love come over me, a love that I had never felt before. And it was true, unconditional love, without any strings attached. I felt it being poured over me. It felt like a wave, an ocean wave of love being poured over me. And I knew it was coming from the direction behind me. So I turned around. I turned around to see what was going on behind me. And there I saw a man. I saw a man all dressed in white, with a long white beard and pretty long white hair, and just the most loving eyes. His eyes felt like they were hugging you. And as I saw him, the first thought I had was, you must be God. His response, without using his mouth, he communicated directly to me that no, I'm not God. And my follow-up thought was, then you must be Jesus. And his response was, no, son, I'm not Jesus. He explained that he was here to be my guide. He explained his name was Drake and that he wanted to take me wherever I wanted to go. And I saw that body down there on the hospital gurney. It was still in convulsions and they were working on it and it did not look good at all. It looked horrible. And I saw all this tremendous love pouring off of this gentleman. And I knew that I didn't want the body. I didn't want anything to do with him, with my body. I wanted to go wherever this love was coming from that I could feel pouring off this man. I wanted to go wherever that comes from. And so I expressed that to him and let him know that I wanted to go wherever this love is coming from. And he helped me see and understand that this love is coming from my home and that it was coming from his home. And that if I wanted to, I could go to my home. So we decided at that very moment, let's go home. And we began this journey. We began this amazing, beautiful journey to home. Drake, one of the first things he explained to me is he explained that this was going to be a journey of distance and a journey of understanding as well. And that as any of these specific understandings were given to me, that I didn't need to fully embrace them. I had to just be willing to accept that it was possible they were true or that they were possibly true for me. And that's where my journey began. The first thing I noticed is that Drake helped me understand the most important thing in this life is being truly authentic. We need to be as authentic as possible because too many times in this life, we allow false personas or masks to come up around us. And we show those different masks to different people. And it's vitally important that we find who we really are. And we put all the masks down and we allow the real self to come out and to play in this life, in this earth school. And that was the second thing he taught me is why we're here in earth, why we're here on earth. We chose to come here. It's one of the hardest schools, but it is a school. And that it's always been a classroom. It's never been a courtroom. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. We're here to take what we've been able to learn from this life, mostly our relationships and how to love and create relationships. That's what we learn. And we take that with us into the eternal existence. Then the third thing that he taught me was love. That love was one of the most important things we can learn in this life, is how to love each other. But first we must love ourselves. And if we can't love ourselves, we can't love anyone else. We first must truly love ourselves before we can have love for anyone else. And if we can't have love for ourselves, we can never have true love for anyone else. And that it goes hand in hand with each other. We started to approach this huge space, much larger than our planet, much larger than our sun. And as I approached it, we actually came down and touched down in this place that I call home. Others may call it heaven. And the first thing I noticed is everything is different. But also everything is like Earth, but so much better. Here on Earth, everything exists with an outside source of light. But there, everything exists with an internal source of light, that everything there is light. So even the grass, which grass was the first element, the first thing that I experienced there, I could feel the beautiful vibrations coming off the grass. And as my feet touched down in the grass, I could feel the most tremendous love pouring and flowing through that grass into me. And again, it was just like that love that Drake was pouring upon me, but even stronger, much stronger. I noticed that there was distinct divine consciousness behind the grass, that the grass itself was divine consciousness, and that every blade of grass, every blade had its own energy, its own light, its own vibrational frequency, and that together it was like a symphony, that you could even taste the sweetness of just touching it with your feet. As I'm experiencing this grass, Drake points out, if you like the grass, you should see the flowers. And that's when I started to notice the flowers. And Drake helped me get my consciousness zoomed in and right on a flower, right on the petals of a flower, the edge of the flower. And I could experience that flower as if it was a mansion or a condo, really experiencing all aspects of this amazing flower. And the colors that you get there are more than all the colors that we have here added together. And that's just the basics there. And as I'm experiencing this flower, I'm noticing that it too has a consciousness. And I can feel love coming off of it, just like I could feel love coming off the grass. I could feel the tremendous amount of peace and healing that the flowers offered. And that's when Drake took my attention and said, if you love the flowers, you need to notice the trees. And then I was just so excited. I was like, there's trees? And he brought my attention to the trees. And I saw the divine majesty of trees. And that these trees there are of pristine divine consciousness and love. They only are reaching and loving and wanting us to be there, to experience them. And I could feel their joy even as I was witnessing them and experiencing them, and just feel the divine wisdom behind their existence, how much pleasure they received by me even noticing them. And as this is all happening, I also noticed there was this great building. And this great building, it looked like an ancient university. I could feel immense amounts of information being learned in that place. Tremendous amounts of learning going on there. And I could also see that for someone, which I saw people going in and out of these rooms at the university, as they were going in and out, they would have to match their love energy, the frequency of who they were, to the room. And as they matched it, they were able to enter the room. But if they weren't able to match it, they couldn't get in that room. And it was as if the building itself made sure that you were ready to enter different rooms as you could achieve certain levels of love, of vibrational love, of energy. And as I'm witnessing all of this, I'm just floored. I'm amazed. I'm amazed that all of this exists. And I'm wondering, why did I never know about this? Why was I not taught that this is really what it's like? And that's when I could fully understand that there's nothing on earth like that. That's why we're not taught fully what it is there. As I'm really looking around and taking in this, to me, a magical space, taking in this magical space, then I feel Drake come to me. And he puts his arms around me and he gives me a hug. And in this hug, I felt the power to create a universe. And I felt a total communion with Drake, whereas we came together and I could feel the absolute presence of the Creator's love coming from him. As I could feel that, I could feel almost like a blast of energy coming off of us as we hugged. Almost like a pulsar or a big boom of energy came off of us as we hugged. And he began to say, Vinney, I know this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And right then I started to hear my own brother saying a special prayer over my body. And he was saying a special prayer over my body here on earth, with my body in the hospital. At this point, I had been brain dead for 3 days. My body had been in a coma for 3 days while I was traveling. And I was hearing my body get a special prayer being said over it. And that special prayer from my brother, it commanded me to be made whole and to come back to my body. And as my brother completed that prayer, as he completed that special prayer, I felt instantaneous that I was pulled and I was brought back into my body. I went into the hospital being cut out of a body bag on January 18th, and I came out of the hospital at 7:30 in the morning on January 21st. The hard part was after my experience, because after you go to a place like that, you can't think of anything else. All you can think about is you want to get back there. And for months afterwards, I really wanted to just get back there. And I made plans, all sorts of plans on how to do it, accidentally or on purpose. But I wanted to get back to heaven. But at the same time, I kept hearing Drake tell me, Vinney, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And in April, I met my earth angel. I met my wife, Andrea. And the very first moment we met, we both felt magical energy, truly magical energy between the two of us. And I felt an activation of heaven. as I met her. And for the first time since I came back, I felt a strong pulling to keep me here on earth and to move forward and to do what's hard, but what's worth it. And so I began to live in a new way, in a completely different way from my experience. I lived differently. I spoke differently. I became differently. I wasn't perfect by any shape or means of the word, but I started living completely different than I did before. And fast forward only a few months later, I was getting ready to get married in 1 month. And 1 month before I got married, I went to a family reunion, a gathering of family in a little town of Wyoming called Afton, Wyoming. And there, at a high school, I saw a picture in a big presentation. I saw a picture of Drake. My confusion was off the charts because it didn't say his name was Drake. It said his name was Charles. But I recognized the last name. It was my grandmother's maiden name. So I went directly to my grandmother and I asked her, I said, Grandma Donna, who is Charles Gazaire? And her exact response was, oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous in our family. And from that time forward, I now had a complete confirmation that what I had experienced was something real for me. And I share this experience not to say that this is going to be everyone's experience, but to help you understand and help anyone understand that's listening to this, that life is much larger and bigger than you can know. And that we, all of us, have lived for an eternity before we got here. And we're going to live for an eternity after here. So it's important we don't mess things up too bad here. And we learn how to love. We learn how to build those relationships and learn how to care for each other. Because those things, the power of creating relationships, the power of creating with our energy, that's what we get to take with us. We don't get to take our homes, our cars, even our fancy jewelry. We don't get to take it. It stays here. But we get to go to a place where fancy homes don't matter, jewelry doesn't matter, money doesn't matter. Because there, we all are billionaires. We are all greater than billionaires. We are all so full of the Creator's love that we can wash away any harm that this life has put upon us. And we can embrace that love and we can move forward and do the learning and the growing that we want to do in our home, our real home in heaven.